There was a time in my life where I had very little faith, and honestly, I was pretty angry at God. And then I stumbled upon this book of Ecclesiastes, and it's the book that I really credit to being one of the reasons I still have my faith today. And in this video, I just wanted to share with you why what is often considered one of the most nihilistic or hopeless books in the Bible actually was the one that gave me the most hope to keep on living. So I'm gonna hit you with some background information on Ecclesiastes just so we know where we're coming from when we read this. Ecclesiastes is written by Koheleth, which in our language roughly translates to the preacher slash teacher. And the preacher is often thought of as King Solomon. But one thing is, we're not 100% sure on this. He is called the son of David, but the way it's written sometimes links it to earlier time periods before Solomon. Listen, I'm not gonna pretend like I have any idea who wrote Ecclesiastes, so I'm just gonna go specifically off of what is said in this book. We learn a little bit about the preacher through the start. We learn two main things. This guy is wise and he's rich. And through his wisdom and also his wealth giving him the freedom to kind of do whatever he wants, he aims to discover what is meaningful in this life, what is important, what matters. And the conclusion he comes to, with all his wisdom, he can't find anything. Okay, but one difference that I think is really clear here is not that there isn't anything, just that he, with his own worldly wisdom, cannot find it. Sometimes this book can feel like it's just saying, yo, life doesn't matter, everything is meaningless, but I think the preacher makes it pretty clear that no, life does have meaning because our God made it, and God does things with meaning and purpose, and he makes everything perfect. It's just, we can't find it. I have seen the God-given task which with the sons of men are to be occupied. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. All right, the preacher calls this work, everything God does, as incredibly beautiful. We just can't find it out. And I think he hammers this home with three main points. Number one, the worldly possessions will go away. Like I said, the preacher was no stranger to money. In Ecclesiastes 2, we get a quick account of all the stuff he built and made and did with all of this. He built houses and vineyards, had the biggest flocks, had a bunch of servants and singers, and collected rare silvers, golds, treasures, instruments. And he does this to see if these kind of worldly pleasures or these possessions are worth pursuing as a person on earth. And this is what he says after he gets all of it. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. Number two, wisdom will leave you also. The other thing Koheleth thought might be worth getting is a bunch of wisdom to understand everything, and he also says this isn't worth it. For there's no more remembrance of the wise than of the fool forever, since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come. And how does a wise man die? As the fool. All this I have proved by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. As for that which is far off and exceedingly deep, who can find it out? So yeah, wisdom helps you understand some worldly things, and it makes you more unhappy. It doesn't let you escape death. You die just the same as a fool, and you also don't know the deep things that our human hearts wants to know. The last one, and that the one that hits the hardest for me personally, life does not feel just. In our sense of human justice, it usually goes something like, he who deserves something should get it. Like, you know, we like to think that, you know, somebody who works hard, somebody who's nice and is a good person should get more than the lazy, evil liar. That's built somewhere inside me, and when I see this not happening, I feel angry or frustrated, or this, like, I feel very pained, you know. But Solomon knew through his wisdom, yeah, 100% life doesn't work this way. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men in skill, but time and chance happen to them all. This is the part that I feel most frustrated about living as a person, honestly. I find it really hard to know that a lot of our lives are determined by time and chance, not off of our ethic or what we deserve. And it's frustrating because I want to live in a world that's fair. But you know, through reading these words, there's something almost like very cathartic for me. I find it crazy that God put this book in the Bible, because that means He knows we feel this way, you know. He knows we're confused at the justice or the meaningless or the vanity of life. He knows we're gonna feel this way, and he wrote a book down for us to console us, and that's like very touching for me. And when I read Ecclesiastes, especially when I'm feeling this kind of meaninglessness or senselessness, I always feel very loved. And also, God doesn't leave us hanging. So yeah, awkward transition to part 2. The biggest idea I think Ecclesiastes reminds us through all of this feeling of meaninglessness and vanity is that you're a human. You feel this way, but that doesn't mean it's true. And you gotta trust God that he made this world and this life and our existence for a reason. You know, when Eve is in the Garden of Eden in Genesis, the way she is tempted by the serpent is the idea of having the knowledge of God. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And I think this temptation is ultimately the one Ecclesiastes seeks to talk about. I said at the start of this video, I've been angry at God, and it's because I was frustrated that life felt unjust and unfair and meaningless, like the preacher said, and I was angry at God thinking I could do it better. I would say things in my head like, hey, if I was God, I wouldn't do it this way. How is this fair, God? How is this good? I'm the one setting the standard of what's good and bad. And I'm doing this fundamentally because I don't like being left in the dark. We as humans have to go through all this suffering and pain and injustice, and I don't know why. I want to know. And the preacher wanted to know too. And the preacher was a whole lot wiser than me. And he concluded that all we can do is let go and trust. As you do not know what is the way of the wind or how the bones grow in the womb of her who is with child, so you do not know the works of God who makes everything. And that's okay. We can just put our faith and trust in God and still live this life through that. This is how the book of Ecclesiastes ends. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. God's got the judgment. He's got a plan. So really it came down to me when I was in that period of doubting and anger, like, do I trust God? Do I have faith in this God that has revealed himself to me? And ultimately I decided, yeah, I do. And there's also one other key idea that I left out when talking about the central points of Ecclesiastes. Enjoy your life. So I commended enjoyment, because a man has nothing better under the sun than to eat, drink, and be merry. For this will remain with him in his labor all the days of his life, which God gives him under the sun. God put us here and we can enjoy the things that we were meant to enjoy. You know, the biggest thing that I think Ecclesiastes taught me, it was like humility, man. And it was that God knew I was going to be asking these kinds of questions. So he put this book here and he wanted to remind me, like, I'm sovereign above it all. I have created everything. I have made everything. And you just got to trust me. Humble yourself. Fear me. Obey what I say in this book that I've given to you, my living word. And enjoy your life too. Because there are things, you know, in between my frustration and anger and crying that are truly enjoyable. You know, like when I drink orange juice, I don't think I could enjoy that orange juice as much as I do without reading this book, you know? Yeah, man, that's the video. Yeah, I got nothing else.